All right, get your rod tip up. Oh, he's spout hooked too. It makes you feel even bigger. Hey, white bass.
That took you downstream.
Hit hard. Just ran straight for the current. Took me downstream with her.
He's got another. If you're going to take a couple home, these are the ones, not the 30, 40 pounders. These are the ones right here, aren't they?
To me, that's the perfect size. Easy to clean and got a lot of meat on it.
Oh, yeah. What do we got here? Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my gosh. Look at that. Very, very first bite. 7 pounds, 6 ounces.
The most relaxing serenity.
Here we go.
Got one?
That thing just absolutely annihilated.
Yeah, that bait.
I will tell you
That's
this.
a good one too.
Beautiful walleye right here in the Green River.
Oh, it's a nice fish.
Man, they're such strong fish.
Oh.
Look at the belly on that thing.
You think these fish are picking up?
Look at that. I mean, look at that belly.
Oh, there you go.
I was getting ready. That was one of those mend bites you were talking about. There we go.
You know, that is a tiger trout.
That's a brook and a brown trout hybrid.
Yeah, so man-made.
It's a pretty good sized fish. I can see it. It's a sturgeon. We got a sturgeon.
It looks like this has had scoots removed, so that means it is one of our hatchery reared fish.
Anything caught on rod and reel must be released.
Release back into the water as quickly as possible after being caught.
If you see one of these big alien-looking things, it's a fish habitat and a shoreline stabilization tool, and it's a project we're going to monitor for a little while and see what the benefits are.
They're a very versatile structure, and actually the thing that stands out the most to us is that they're going to last forever.
Here we go.
Oh yeah.
That's a respectable smallmouth bass. When you're a little creek or stream fishing here in the state of Kentucky, there you go. Look at that pretty fish. These fish are looking for easy opportunities, and I made it as easy as I possibly could, and he smoked it on like the second cast. We did pick up some minnows today.
Oh yeah, big one.
Ooh, good crappie.
Keeper, y'all.
There you go. That one's gonna keep, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
10 inches equals 2 fillets in the skillet. Looky there. That is a sauger for sure. Look at the barring on that fish. Look how beautiful that fish is.
Got one. That's a big, fat rock bass. Look at that.
Oh my God.
Pretty good one. Look how he's barred up because he was down in that log, camouflaging himself. So people call these goggle eyes and people call them red eye. They're good eating. Yep, that's what I thought, long-eared sunfish.
It's a pretty good creek fish right here.
Beauty, Chad. Fish of the day for sure.
Kentucky Afield. Every week, Kentucky Afield brings you features on hunting and fishing across the state.
What a nice fish. An opportunity to hopefully get that bird in play.
Hey, we got another one over here.
There he is. Ooh, a nice one too. Boy, he's healthy.
What do we got?
That was awesome. Got the first kill. Barely made it out of the field.
Got one big smallmouth.
Very nice.
Double point, they're in there.
There they go.
Look at that joker.
Woo.
That's a good one there.
Look at that. Beautiful. Whoa, this is a good one.
That's better than good, Chad.
Hello and welcome to Kentucky Afield. I'm your host, Chad Miles. Tonight, you have tuned into our annual fishing question and answer show. Tonight's show is going to be divided in 3 parts. First, we're going to meet our guest. Second, we're going to play a little bit of trivia, and we're going to finish the show off by answering all your questions. To my immediate left, we have Jeff Ross, who's the Assistant Director of Fisheries. How you doing?
Great.
Next to him, we have David Baker, who's the Central District Fisheries Biologist. How you doing?
Doing good, Chad.
And answering all of our law enforcement questions today, we have Warden Tyler Willen. How you doing?
Doing good, sir.
So I know we've got a lot of things going on in preparation for spring fishing. It doesn't start the day people go fishing. There's a lot of work that takes place to get us to this point. Tell me a little bit about what you've had going on.
Well, we usually like to get out a little earlier, but I've been a little slow on it. But I got the fishing forecast up on the web last Friday. I don't put it together. I compile it, but the district biologists send in all the information. So the biologists take all their sampling data, their trend data, their creel survey data, fish have done in the past year, if there was a good spawn, and they use that to predict how the fishing is going to be in this upcoming year. So they send all that in, I compile it. What the anglers get is a document where if they like to read, they can go to every lake and read a whole paragraph on, what we think. It's maybe a paragraph and maybe a couple sentences. Gives them an idea what's biting, what's going to be good, and what's maybe average. But it also provides them a quicker way. If you don't want to read it all, there's cheat sheets, and there's a cheat sheet for the main lakes, and then there's one for the Finns lakes. And with that, it just highlights the best fishing opportunities by species. So you can go to, like if you're largemouth bass fisherman, you go to that column, and every lake that has good predicted bass fishing will have it's like an orange color to the cell, and that gives you a quicker way to say, hey, let's narrow my choices down to these lakes.
So this is something that's every single year using a bunch of data, and it actually compiles every single body of water in Finn's Lake by species, right? So you can search either by species or by a body of water. So it's a good way to kind of plan your trips. And
and it has within it, it may be hard to see, but there's links built in throughout it. So on the main lakes, if you click on a lake, it'll go to our webpage that has the ramps and all the habitat and all of that listed. If you go to the cheat sheet and click on a lake, it'll go to the full forecast that's further down in the document. So it really gives you a lot of good information.
So you can access this on the web. It's out there every single year. The new one is now up for 2026. Now, is this also loads into the Fishboat Kentucky app, right? So if you have the app, Fishboat Kentucky app, you can also, out there on the water, literally link right into it.
And you can click on a lake, and if it links to our web page, but it's still going through the app, and you can bring up Google Maps and hit take me there and go. You
can actually find structure and everything else right in the water, which is what I know you've been working on. David, you spend a lot of time putting structure out in the lakes this time of year. Tell me a little bit about that.
So we were actually out on Taylorsville Lake today putting out some of our Christmas trees from our Christmas for the Fishes program. So for people who don't know what that is, that's where people from Kentucky can donate their live Christmas trees after the holidays, and then we recycle them and turn them into fish habitat. And we've had a really good year this year. So just looking at statewide numbers, we typically get around 5,000 trees donated to us. This year we actually are a little over 6,000. So what that means for our anglers is a lot more habitats getting put out. And so we're refurbishing piles at Taylorsville today, and those trees get used all around the state, and it's a quick way for us to get a lot of material and make a big impact.
What all fish species will use those cedar trees?
So we see kind of the prime time for these brush piles being in like late summer through the fall into the winter. And typically the crappie really like them. But the bigger bass, they hang out on them because there's like a little buffet of bluegill and other small fish hanging out there. So it's really gets used by a lot of fish. Flatheads, some big flatheads hang out in them too. So
so it's a great way to later in the year. When you first put them in, it takes fish a little bit of time to kind of assimilate to them. But later in the summer and spring, or last year's cedar trees will also be marked on this app that you're talking about. You can go and find last year's structure you put out as well, right?
So the beauty of it is you can go to our website, go to Lakes with Fish Attractors, and you can see everywhere we put them out. It gives us GPS coordinates. You can upload them to your depth finder units, and it'll take you right to them. Typically it gets you within about 10 feet. So it gets you really close. A lot of these sites are built really large. You know, they may be 80, 100 Christmas trees in a pile.
Oh, wow.
So we're trying to make really big sites. They're easy to find, and they hold a lot of fish.
Very cool. What's new this year as far as the fishing side on the law enforcement end?
Oh, well, I'd just like to say first and foremost that that having a fishing license, you can have it on your cell phone, you can have the printed copy. Both are perfectly acceptable. I'd just like to remind fishermen that battery life, they can die. Service, a lot of places where you fish aren't the best for service. So just like to remind people that having their physical copy on them is always a quick way for us to check. Get out of your hair, because nobody wants to hang out with the game warden all the time you're fishing.
Well, you know, the great thing is printing your own license using your My Profile right at the Department of Fish and Wildlife website. Right. You go to fw.ky.gov, set up your My Profile, and it's free to print. And you can also get your hunter safety card. You can take all of your hip surveys. All that can be done and reprinted right onto your license. So
exactly.
Very quick and easy way to do that. So
absolutely. There's
apps in there that the Fishboat Kentucky app is, for one, will show you a picture, but that's only good if your cell phone's good, right?
Right, exactly.
So that printed copy is a real quick way to hand that over. So
right. We utilize the state police post for our dispatch, so anytime we can keep that line clear, if there's a real emergency, you know, not tying it up with a fishing license check. So it's always quicker if you have a printed copy.
Okay. Well, now we've kind of met our panel of guests. We found out what they've been working on. Now we're going to have a little fun. Before we get to your questions, we're going to do some trivia. So we have 10 trivia questions. You guys should have dry erase boards underneath there. If you want to pull them out and pull your dry erase marker up, we're going to do some trivia questions. We'll share the answers all at the same time. And these questions they range from pretty easy to a little more specific. So I know we only got 1 or 2 questions for our game warden here. I know you don't do a ton of fishing, so you're going to do fine on these questions, though. All right, this ought to be a lot of fun. We have questions ranging from lures to bass fishing to pan fishing to a little bit of Kentucky Afield trivia as well. So here we go. You can play it along as well at home if you want. So here we go. Question number 1. Why is May often the best month for targeting bluegill in the state of Kentucky? All right. We got a couple of options here. A is because they migrate offshore during that month. B is they spawn and concentrate in shallow areas. C, they are more aggressive after the winter. Or D, there's less fishing pressure during the derby season. A, they migrate offshore. B, they spawn and concentrate in shallow areas. C, they're more aggressive after winter. Or D, there's less fishing pressure during the derby. All right, everybody ready?
I think so.
Question number 1, what answer you got? Everybody's got B. B is the correct answer. During that time of year, May is typically when they spawn. What's a good thing to look for when you're fishing for bluegill during the spawn?
As far as like the beds?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can see the beds, that's awesome.
If you're clear water, you can see them pretty well, can't you?
Yeah.
And if you see that black dot right there in the middle of that bed, it's typically a big bluegill that's guarding that nest. They're pretty aggressive then, aren't they?
Yeah. Sure.
Willing to bite.
Me and my son cruise around and look for the muddy waters. You gotta look for where they're actively fanning. Look for the muddy water.
That works really well. So shallow water, typically bluegill spawn in what depth of water?
It can be fairly shallow, maybe a foot or 2, 3 feet.
Yeah, I was going to say typically 1 to 3 feet, I would say.
1 to 3 feet. So.
Yeah, I mean, they'll get crazy shallow. They like to get up under overhang limbs. Sometimes they're hard to cast to.
There you go. There's your tips for May. Next question. What does the AC in AC Shiner, a Kentucky-based lure company, stand for? All cast, angler's catch, action certified, or awesome casting? All right. A, all cast. B, angler catch. C, action certified. D, awesome casting. You guys ever heard of AC Shiners, obviously?
I know what an AC Shiner is. I've never thought about what AC stood for, though.
A lot of people, I think, thought it was the name of the gentleman who made that, but it's not the name. It actually does stand for something. A, all cast. B, angler catch. C, action certified. D, awesome casting. Everybody got their answer? All right, what do we have?
I missed this one.
I have no idea.
Well, C is right. It actually stands for Action Certified. They test every single lure, and it's Action Certified. That's where it comes
Like
from.
I'm back in high school, just got to see your way through it, you know?
There you go. Hey, you're doing pretty good. I know you got two right.
When in
here.
doubt. When in doubt.
All right, our next question, number 3. In early spring, a suspending jerkbait is most effective when A, retrieved very quickly, B, paused between twitches, C, fished only at night, D, drug across the bottom. In early spring, when you're fishing a suspended jerkbait, it's most effective when you A, retrieve it very quickly, B, paused between twitches, C, fished only at night, or D, drug across the bottom. You guys ready? All right, what do you got? We've got them all. B. The answer is paused between twitches. And I'll tell you what, when the water's really cold, sometimes long pauses can tend to really target strikes.
That's kind of a stress. Well, are you talking like cold water?
Like cool, like early spring when the water's kind of cool. A lot of times your baits kind of start dying off on real cold nights, and that kind of reminds them of that. But I've seen Kevin Van Dam fish a jerkbait so fast in spring and still wear them out. But typically, long pauses in between your twitches tends to work. All right, number 3. The largest fish that's been caught on Kentucky Afield in the past 10 seasons was which species? A, the American paddlefish, B, a blue catfish, C, a striped bass, or D, a flathead catfish. What was the largest fish species caught in Kentucky Afield during the last 10 years? American paddlefish, A, B, blue catfish, C, striped bass, D, flathead catfish. I know this is a tough one because it could be any of those, right? What do you have? What are your answers? You all have the exact same answer, which is a really good answer because I think that's the largest fish. Unfortunately,
a stack in the deck.
Flathead catfish. And it was actually caught hand grabbing. It was a 50-something, 60-pound fish that was caught by hand grabbing catfish.
We weren't given enough information.
Yeah, that's a tough one. But you guys, you all know your fish species because you picked the largest fish and the largest fish here in the state of Kentucky, which was the blue catfish, right? What's the record for a blue catfish here in Kentucky?
Oh gosh,
is it 96 or was it over?
It's over.
I think it's 106
pounds.
106 pounds that comes to mind.
I was gonna say it's over 100.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, all right. Next question. Question number 5. Slot limit requires anglers to do what? Keep only small fish, release fish within a protected size range, use no more than 2 fishing posts, or D, fish only during daylight. A slot limit requires anglers to A, keep only small fish, B, release fish within a protected size range, C, use no more than 2 fishing poles, or D, fish only during daylight hours. Everybody got their answer?
Yep.
All right. B it is. That's exactly right. A slot limit requires anglers to release fish within a protected size range. This is used on several of our species of fish in Kentucky.
Tell me primarily bass, and there may be questions about it, later on in the show. But back in the day, everybody preached catch and release. Well, now people don't keep bass at all. Yeah. And their numbers build up so much that the growth slows. So we use the slot limit to let them take those small ones. So the small fish part is half of it. Yeah. But you can keep fish over as well. Yeah. So it allows them to thin out the small ones, but you can also, if it works well, keep the bigger fish that show up. The bigger fish are in there, but the ones that tend to be the most fertile and the best producers tend to be the ones in the slot limit anyway, they'll be in there. Yep. So it gives you, it puts the best producing fish back, allows the anglers to keep some, but it protects the trophy fish so that anglers have an opportunity to catch them as well. So slot limits, there you go. Next question, question number 6. Well, if I can get it over here. Question number 6. Why do smallmouth bass often prefer rocky points in the spring? All right.
Our answers: A, rocks absorb sunlight for warmth. B, points provide more escape routes. C, they hide from anglers. D, muddy areas are too shallow. C, why do smallmouth bass often prefer rocky points in the spring? Because A, rocks absorb sunlight for warmth. B, points provide more escape routes. C, they hide from anglers. Or D, muddy areas are too shallow. You guys got answers? All right. What are your answers here?
I got this one wrong.
A, and B. All right. Rock. Now, this is kind of a tricky question because sometimes the shallow areas are going to warm up faster and the fish are going to come up there. But smallmouth bass tend to hang around rocks because they absorb sunlight. I'll tell you what, some of our lakes, that, like on Cumberland and Dale Hollow or Laurel Lake, that have those real dark black rocks, you can tend to see more warmth hit those areas. I've seen anglers specifically target the dark colored rocks because they heat up faster.
Especially those that are south facing, they warm up quicker too.
South facing,
Yep.
That's exactly right. There you go. Next question. What does krill limit refer to? This one's all you, man. You got this. You
Don't put that pressure
I don't know
on
if you
me.
missed a question, but this one's all you.
Don't put
You
that
got
pressure
this.
on me. That's why I'm getting on.
All right. What does krill limit refer to? The number of rods allowed? B, the boat horsepower limit? C, the number of fish an angler may keep per day? Or D, the number of hooks allowed? What is krill limit? What does that refer to? A, number of rods. B, boat horsepower. C, number of fish an angler may keep. D, number of hooks allowed. All right, what do you got? You guys got it. The krill limit is the number of fish an angler may keep per day. Now, a lot of times we'll have a krill limit and there's another limit, which is called your what?
Possession limit?
Possession
Yes,
limit.
sir.
What's the difference between krill limit and possession limit?
So it's real common with when you go camping. So you fish one day, you got your daily krill limit. That's as many you can keep in one day. Your possession limit's how much you can have in your possession over, like I said, 2-3 day trip. So usually twice the daily krill limit.
Okay, so the krill limit and the possession limit. Krill limit is how many you can keep per day.
Yes, sir.
All right, next question here. Hybrid striped bass are stocked primarily because A, they reproduce naturally in reservoirs. B, they eat zebra mussels. D, they prefer muddy water. C, they prefer muddy water. D, they grow quickly and provide sport opportunities. Hybrid striped bass are stocked primarily because A, they reproduce naturally in reservoirs. B, they eat zebra mussels. D, they prefer muddy water. C, they prefer muddy water, or D, they grow quickly and provide sport opportunities. Everybody ready? Everybody got it. Hybrid striped bass, they grow quickly and provide sport opportunities. And boy, do they provide a good sporting opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
One of my favorite fish to catch is hybrid striped bass. How do we produce hybrid striped bass?
We actually, I think right now we're actually getting them we're not producing them ourselves.
Okay.
We're getting them from Tennessee, I think.
Okay.
It's really tough to get. The hard part is the female, the striper side of it. We cross a striper with a white bass to get a hybrid.
Okay.
But the striped bass is the one that you struggle with because they don't take transporting, and you got to get them right at the right time, that the eggs are in the perfect shape, because you want them to spawn right away without them dying on you and such. So it's so tough, and there's some places that are just built to raise a bunch of them, and so we get them from Tennessee.
But that's a striper and a white bass.
And a white bass.
And that's the hybrid.
Yep.
And they do not reproduce. So if you've caught one in the state of Kentucky, you pretty much have caught it out of a hatchery, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So those.
I mean, you can get a little bit of a natural, like in the Ohio River. I think maybe you'll get.
I'll sort of say that
it's
they
not
definitely
very often.
They
In the
definitely go through the
reservoirs.
motions, but it's not real high.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very fun fish to fish for. The Ohio River you named is a great place to go. I know Taylorsville Lake's got them. Barron's got them. Gist Creek.
Ruff's a good one.
Ruff River's got a bunch of them. So very fun fish to target. And bass fishing in the spring, you're liable to catch one. They get up there kind of in some of the same areas. So, all right, next question. In Kentucky, what is the maximum number of jug lines allowed per person and per boat? All right. In Kentucky, what is the maximum number of jug lines allowed per person and per boat? 25 and 50, 50 and 50, 50 and 100, or 25 and 100. The maximum number of jug lines allowed per person and per boat. A, 25 to 50, B, 50 and 50, C, 50 and 100, D, 25 and 100. All right, everybody ready? Your answers? You got it. That's a tough one. Now, is that every single body of water, the exact same rule on that as far as you know?
That's as far as I know, yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So you're allowed 50 jugs per person and per boat. So throwing an extra couple people on the boat doesn't help you out in that situation. You're allowed 50 per person, 50 per boat. So if you got one, you're allowed 50. You got 20 on the boat, you're still allowed 50.
Right. You want more jugs, get another boat.
Get in a boat. Need another boat. All right. All right. Our last question. I don't know what our official tally is. It really doesn't matter, but I don't think you've missed a question, have you?
No, he needs to
No, it just goes that way.
Fantastic. That's great. All right. Our last question here. What is the best way to avoid spreading invasive species when moving between lakes? This is a hot topic here. We don't want to be spreading invasive species. A, keep live bait in a cooler. B, drain all water and remove vegetation from boats and trailers. C, release unused bait into a new water body. Or D, transport the fish only at night. What is the best way to avoid spreading invasive species when moving between lakes? Keep live bait in a cooler, drain all water and remove vegetation from boats and trailers, release unused bait into a new water body, and D, transport fish only at night. All right, what's your answers? B. We had a lot of B's on here. You're all right. That question is right. Not only is that the best way for plant invasive species and all of that, releasing your bait into a new water body is a bad idea, right?
Kind of made me chuckle when you said that.
that is one thing you absolutely do not want to do. So, well, that was fun. You guys did great. I'm really impressed. That was fantastic. All right, well, now it's time to get to your questions. We've made up our own questions and we've answered those. Now it's time to get to all of the questions provided by our viewers. If you want to submit your question, you can do that on Facebook right now, and we will start taking those right now. All right, it looks like our first question. Can you explain trout season and trout permits? And if you're smallmouth fishing in a stream and accidentally catch a trout and immediately release it, can they get in trouble for that, for not having a trout permit?
So, majority of our job is looking at intent, right? So, we understand accidents happen. If you catch one trout on accident, you release it back. You know, that is what it is. If you're out trout fishing, absolutely, you need to have a trout permit. But in that instance, I wouldn't be too worried about that.
So you just make sure you release it, and and now if you got a whole thing of nothing but flies on there and you're fly fishing, and
exactly, the intent is shifted now, right? So that's what we typically look at. Okay,
all right. So trout permits.
Yeah.
Trout permit actually that does come on your sportsman's license, right? And so if you have a sportsman's license, you don't have to worry about it from that point. But we also have season dates for trout where they can be kept in certain bodies of water or can't be kept.
We have a seasonal catch and release season. Usually, well, they all run now from October till the end of March.
Okay.
And you got to release the fish. That's more, those streams don't get stocked a ton from when we stock them in the fall. So we want those fish to hang on, so we ask people to release, well, you have to release them per regulation. On the trout permit, you have to have a trout permit no matter what you're doing on Cumberland Tailwater and Hatchery Creek.
Okay.
And then for the Fins Lakes, you can I guess if you're gonna harvest a trout, you gotta have it.
Yeah, yeah. If you're going to keep a trout, you have to have
if you keep
it.
a trout, you better have a
Yeah,
trout
Finn
park
Lakes,
on it.
and really, if you're fishing Cumberland River, most people, they are trout fishing down there.
Yeah,
You
that's
might
the
be-
reason we did that is really, everybody down there is probably fishing for trout.
Yeah, yeah.
But the Finns Lakes may, a lot of people, new anglers, they
Yeah.
go to Finns Lakes, and you make sure if they're gonna, right now, we're stocking trout, so
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
probably what you're gonna catch.
Stocking, and if people want to know more about the stocking, they can also get that information on
Yeah,
our
we have
website.
like a general stocking page that has trout and a lot of other things, and then we have the Finns page that'll tell you every Finns Lake and when it's getting stocked. This week is like a big trout stocking week.
Okay.
So this week and last week are big ones for February.
So if you're thinking about going fishing, we're going to get some better weather next
Yep.
week.
And you get
Not a
one
bad
more
time.
month in March. We'll get trout going in most of the Finns Lake.
Okay. Next question. Floating, wading, and walking the banks of the creeks and rivers is something that this person has been blessed to enjoy since childhood. How can we better protect ourselves from what has been a significant increase in tick population? Well, this isn't really necessarily a fish-related question.
Right.
This is a person that wants to walk and wade. Man, down there around those creeks can sometimes be a
Yeah.
tough area for that type of chiggers and ticks. What do you guys use for that?
I was fixing to say, my thing is like, I do a lot of, bank fishing and stuff, and I mean, we just stop very periodically and check, and just to get them off before they attach. And,
Yeah, yeah.
you can put some spray, but the problem is you're out there walking and sweating and in the water, and but I think the main thing is just stop and check, real periodic.
But
yeah,
you-
if it's not super hot, you could wear, long sleeves or something like that just to protect, your bare skin when you're rubbing up against stuff. But the sprays work well. I know probably some people are a little leery of putting that on your skin, and some of it is kind of harsh. but-
Yeah, some of it's not supposed to be on your skin at all. I mean,
Yeah.
off, I think you can spray on most of those, but some of the stuff, permethrin, for example, is clothing only.
Right.
And you can treat your boots and your outer layer with that permethrin, and I think it's good for like 4 or 5 washes in 30 days or something. It lasts a while. You've got to be using something. You're out there every single day. What do you recommend?
Well, typically, if I know I'm going to be in the woods, it's safe to assume I'm going to be, but the night before, spray it with Sawyer's Sawyer spray. What they gave us in the academy is still what I use to this day. So
It works really well. Is
so
that the yellow bottle? Sawyer's?
It's yellow and black.
Yeah, yellow and black. Yeah,
You
that's
spray your boots, and like you said, and then periodically check. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. Sometimes I just feel like, and I'm a magnet for it. So, but yeah, if I forget the night before, spray before I get out of the truck and when I get out of the truck.
Yeah, there are definitely tools. Don't let that stop you from getting out there and doing what you love. There are definitely tools to help prevent that, and checking periodically, using the sprays. Those are the best ways I know. Next question here: how are muskie doing in the lakes, and have they rebounded in the Kentucky River? So you have a muskie update?
Yeah, I think the lakes are doing fairly well. We had a couple years, it kind of kicked off with COVID and then a few other issues that we had, and we had low stocking numbers, so the anglers may have seen that, but I've heard reports of, some nice muskie coming out at Cave Run now, decent sized fish. I'm guessing that person's talking about maybe after the fish kill on the Kentucky River.
That'd be
and the
my guess.
rebounding.
Yeah.
And we try to stock the river every year. It had a couple years where it didn't get stocked, but I know people are catching them there for sure.
Okay.
So I'd say all in all, it's in pretty good shape, and we've had several years in a row where we've been able to stock the lakes for sure. So they should see, pretty good populations of them now.
So Cave Run Lake is a good muskie destination.
Yep.
Green River Lake,
Buckhorn
right?
has them.
Buckhorn.
And Dewey in the fishing forecast is listed kind of as an up-and-comer because that's the last lake we decided to stock. And those fish are now crossing the keeper size 40 inches.
Okay.
And people are catching them, so it may not be as dense a population as some of the lakes we've been stocking forever, but that's another one that people probably don't realize it has muskie in it.
Yeah.
And they're catching them.
In stream fishing, you have the Licking and the Kentucky River.
And Tigers. And
Tigers, so there's
we have a whole list.
Yeah, and the Green River is really
Yeah,
good
Green
down
River.
below the lake.
Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunities to catch muskie. If you have the patience to muskie fish, there's a lot of opportunity out there. Yeah. All right, next question. What wadable rivers near Louisville give me a real shot at trophy class river smallmouth on the fly? He's looking for 18-inch plus fish. Any ideas on anywhere near Louisville that give you the opportunity to catch 18-inch smallmouth?
I was going to say, we've seen them in our surveys on Floyd's Ford. You know, they're at the parklands, and we did our stream surveys. I mean, there's not tons and tons of them, but I mean, I definitely think the potential for that size fish is there.
What about Bashir's Creek? Does that have them in there?
I was going to say, I get reports out of Bashir's Creek, and you know, typically, you know, a 15, 16-inch fish is kind of where they top out over there. Not to say you can't catch a bigger one, but the average fish is going to top out probably around 16 inches over there.
Okay.
We do see some 18-plus inch fish on Elkhorn Creek. That's another really good smallmouth stream. Green River, I've shocked up some like 5 to 6 pound class fish out of the Green River below the lake. So I've seen some.
That's a giant, isn't it?
It was, it was memorable. I haven't forgot about it yet. So,
so yeah, you kind of given some ideas where you can go catch some fish right in Louisville, and then, you know, you look at Elkhorn Creek and Green River, you're looking at an hour and 20, hour and 30 minutes, depending on what part of Louisville. So those are
but
still
if
manageable.
you're specifically looking for that bigger class fish, I think that's where I'd spend my time at.
Yeah. So yeah, those are all areas I've fished, and they all can be very productive for smallmouth bass.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite fish to stream target during the summertime, when it's hot and it's just no fun to be in a bass boat, wading at creeks for smallmouth bass is a fantastic way to spend the day. Next question, how did the spawn go last year with all the flooding? Man, this is a question that I'm sure that it's on a lot of people's mind. The flooding last year was historic flooding in a lot of areas. What do we find out about the spawn?
I mean,
what have you seen?
I mean, I can speak for the lakes that I work on, and you know, most of our bass spawns were at average, or a lot of our lakes were above average this year. So the flooding actually seemed to be very positive. It put a lot of our lakes up into trees and bushes and more habitat, and it seems like the fish took, you know, advantage of that. We've also saw the crappie have good spawns. So I think overall it was a big benefit to our fishers. It definitely didn't hurt them.
Okay.
I think the water got up and it stayed up. So if that water is not going up and down during the spawn and staying fairly stable,
oh yeah,
you know, it creates a lot of good spawning habitat for the fish.
Oh, it's a lot of the lakes. The water got up to, you know, near record height and stayed there throughout, definitely the crappie spawn.
Yep. So
you start thinking about, you know, like you said, that with the normal swings that we get, eggs don't do real good when they get laid and they're dry. Because the lake fell 3 feet, or 6 feet or whatever. But this year the lakes kind of stayed high.
I think the Corps likes to get them down quickly, but I think with the Ohio River up as well, you know, there's only so much they can let loose because it's just going to back up and flood other areas. So they had to hold on to it, which actually was probably a blessing for the spawn.
I know that a lot of the fish species that people really like to go after, some of their first fishing is white bass. And the white bass fishing was fairly non-existent on many of the areas, the Dix River, the Salt River above Taylorsville Lake, Nolan River. There wasn't a whole lot of opportunity because, you know, you were standing in the treetops trying to cast for them. So
Taylorsville, for example, now they may have spawned up at, you know, Glensboro, you know, miles and miles up above the lake, but we had a really good white bass spawn last year.
Okay.
When we did our fall survey, so they definitely found a place to get a good spawn off, and we're successful with it.
Okay. It should have been a lot of them getting spawned because they weren't being caught as much.
I'll sort of say they did not have any pressure because River Road was underwater.
Yeah, all the access to them, there's no getting to them. So good. Let's hope that that translates into some good fishing this year and years to come.
I think it will.
All right, next question. This person is having an argument with her husband. She said, what is the difference in a mean mouth and a small mouth? And what is the physical difference in stripers, hybrids, and white bass? All right, let's take the first one, mean mouth. Does it exist?
Yeah, yes. I mean, it's a name that people have given.
Okay.
It's not a specific species, but it's a hybrid. Typically, it's a hybrid between a smallmouth and a spotted bass.
Okay.
And a lot of times that they occur because if the spawning habitat's limited and the season is compressed, those two species, since they already spawn in similar areas and times somewhat, it pushes them together, and it just happens that cross, one spawns with the other, and that's what you get. You can get smallmouth, largemouth. You don't see them as often, but we have seen them. But the typical mean mouth it just looks weird. It's like it's got the stripes of a smallmouth, but then it's got, the bottom half of it just looks spottish.
You get that.
You get some
the
rows.
You get the bars, and then you get the rows.
When
the
you see it,
rows.
if you saw one, you'd be like, something wrong with that.
Yeah, you immediately know it's not a largemouth, and a lot of times they do get confused with a smallmouth.
And it can happen naturally, and we've seen a good number from Cumberland and Laurel. You see them at, but some other lakes as well that have both species.
Very cool. Now, they want to know the difference between stripers, hybrids, and white bass. They want to know the physical differences. What would you tell somebody the best way to tell the difference between stripers, hybrids, and white bass?
So, I guess the first thing would be is the hybrid is the cross we talked about a little bit earlier. The stripers obviously get a whole lot bigger. They got, a whole lot darker lines down the side. In a general sense, sometimes the hybrids, you'll see broken lines on them. And the white bass are a lot deeper bodied fish, lighter lines. You can look at, between the hybrids and white bass, you can look at the tooth patches. There's some differences if they're connected or elongated and separated. So there's a few different things like that.
Anything else you want to add there?
I think striped bass tend to have the separated, two tooth patches separated. A hybrid will have two, but they may be somewhat joined.
Okay.
White bass has one. There can always be variability in there, so I think that the more elongated torpedo shape, the striped
Is a
bass
striper,
just seem to stand out to me.
Yeah,
not as deep.
When I say deep bodied, they're taller.
Yeah, from the dorsal fin to the belly is much bigger as far as for the size of the fish.
Yeah, like on the white bass.
The white bass, and in the hybrid sometimes you see
It's
that
kind
too.
it's kind of that in between.
Yeah, it's in between the two. Yeah. Next question. This is a question regarding fishing license. They want to know if they can fish from the Indiana bank on the Ohio River with a Kentucky fishing license. This has been a hot topic as well. Give us an update on that and let this person know if they can do that.
So the reciprocal agreement has been renewed. However, you said they were going to fish on the Indiana side, like on the bank. So the reciprocal agreement is just for the main stem. So once you get into the tributaries off of the river, that goes on that state's licensing. So if you were fishing on the Kentucky side, you would need a Kentucky license. Indiana side would have to follow their statewide regulations.
So if you have a Kentucky license and you're fishing the main stem from the Indiana bank, if you're fishing the main river, you're fine as long as you don't go into a tributary, correct? Is that right? Okay.
Right.
So as long as you're on the main river, that reciprocal agreement is back in play again.
Yes, sir.
All right, there you go. Hopefully that answers your question. Man, there's a lot of good fishing on the Ohio River. When you start looking at how many miles we have, there's a lot of good fishing on the Ohio River. You work the Ohio River much?
I used to work on the river just a little bit, and I saw some really nice catfish. We saw a lot of the Moroni species, the hybrids, the white bass, the stripers.
Oh, yeah.
We would see those at the creek mouths, kind of coming up here in the next month or so.
Oh yeah.
And the abatements, the crappie are really, really good. It's probably one of the most overlooked crappie fisheries we have in the state is the Ohio River. So
I had a person tell me they're going to take me out and catch a bunch of crappie on the Ohio River, and I was like, man, I need to go do this, and he made me a believer. We went to some areas that I didn't know existed, and caught a bunch of crappie.
You get in the spring, some of them backwater areas, and it'll blow your mind.
Yeah,
the numbers and the size.
Yeah, oh yeah, great crappie fishing. Next question. I'm having trouble finding sauger in Kentucky Lake, mostly between Aurora and Paris. Can you give any tips on suggestions on finding these elusive morsels? They are very tasty to eat.
I don't think the population in Kentucky Lakes, it's not a big population. I think finding them probably along the the creek channels drop-offs would be the best. I mean, I think you'd probably do better below in the tailwater, but they're in there, but it's not a, you know, you're gonna have to search for them.
The tailwater, there are some areas in the tailwater there, that, you know, that'd be the Tennessee River on the, below the dam. That area, and Cumberland too also has them, right?
Yeah.
So that area can be really good. As far as
Yeah,
fishing the lake, they're talking about Paris, they're all the way down to the Tennessee side.
Yeah, I mean, bridge piling a lot of times, if there's flow, probably can be good, but
Okay.
I think the, you know, the drop-offs off into the main creek channels probably are a good bet. There's a lot of species that hang out along those throughout the year, different times of the year.
Sauger is such a cool fish, and it's a fish that can be caught this time of year right now where it's really, really cold, and they are very, very good to eat. It's a fish that they kind of disappear in the summertime. They're hard to target and find them, aren't they?
Well, that's actually where my brain went with that question. Is that's kind of the thing is when they're, you know, December, January, February, March, you know, when they're starting to push up below the locking dams and the gravel bars and creek mouths, they're a little bit easier to target and figure out what's going on, and people do really good with them. And then once they get through that spawning cycle and they move back out onto the main river,
they just disappear, don't they?
I mean, everybody struggles with them. So I mean,
you're not alone if you're struggling
you're
catching
not.
them.
I mean, I'd enjoy them when they pile up for their spawning runs, and good luck the rest of the year. So
Yeah.
it is a challenge.
That's something that changed a few years ago. Is we've changed the rules and regulations on sauger, sawguy, and walleye. It used to be that we had a walleye length limit, and sauger had no length limit, and then sauger had, depending on where you were at. We've kind of made some changes there, haven't we? What's the rules and regulations on those three species?
Yes, sir. So it's going to be 6. This is going to be your krill limit. As far as length, I'd have to look.
I think it's 14 inches.
It's 14.
Yeah, 14 inches, and you're
Yeah.
allowed 6, and that's all 3 of those species combined.
Correct.
So you're allowed 6 per angler per day, all species combined. Do we have any slot limits on those at all now?
No, we have slot limits on our like native walleye populations, but not sauger.
Okay. In native walleye populations, you're going to pretty much need to be Rockcastle River, Cumberland River type area
Yeah,
for
Upper
those.
Cumberland, Rockcastle, Barron, above the lake. Barron, actually that reg applies to the lake as well.
Okay.
Actually, it applies below it too. So.
It does. And it's
So make sure
vice,
you read your rules and regulations if you're
Yep.
if you're going after walleye. But the good thing is that you don't have to differentiate between walleye, sauger, and sawguy anymore. They're
Right.
all listed as 14 inches,
Yep.
right? All right. Next question. Where in the bluegrass region is a good area to target white bass using a fly rod?
So around here, I mean, you got your traditional white bass runs is at Dix River above Harrington Lake and Taylorsville Lake up in the Salt River. So I mean, that's again, white bass are not everywhere. So that's where I would recommend spending my time is in those 2 areas. No wind's really good. I mean, that's still kind of the central part of the state.
So you're looking at the bluegrass region. You're talking about Dix River and Salt River.
Correct.
And I'll tell you what, you go down there when those fish are biting, you'll see people out there using a fly rod and catching them. That's for sure.
Well, and that's the beauty of them is you can catch them in a wide variety of ways. So,
Yeah.
I mean, so it's kind of like pick your poison. Well, you know, what makes you happy, go do it.
And we went down last year and fished them 2 years ago with a fly rod on no line. Now we were in a boat with a fly rod. You need a little bit of range to get make that cast behind you. So we did it from a boat, and my gosh, it's a different presentation that just triggered those fish. I think it was because we had a weighted line and the fly presentation was pretty slow. Man, that was a lot of fun. And you talk about a hard fighting fish. White bass pound for pound are hard to beat, aren't they?
Yes.
You catch one on a fly rod, you got your hands full. A lot of fun. So I recommend giving that a try. And there you go, Dix River and Salt River above the lake.
Correct.
Yeah. Next question: why don't you stock bass and bluegill in Finn's lakes? Are we doing any stocking of bass and bluegill in Finn's lakes?
We did some hybrid bluegill stocking in years past, but really almost any small lake like a Finn's Lake, it's usually not a problem to find a bunch of bass and a bunch of bluegill in there, and they reproduce on their own. So it's kind of a waste to stock them in there unless we really saw a major issue. But almost any small lake you fish, you're going to have a bunch of bass and bluegill in it. Now that going back to the fishing forecast and that fins cheat sheet, it has bass, largemouth bass, bluegill, and trout and catfish. So if you have several fins lakes around, you may want to look and see which one actually we say has a good bass population or a good bluegill population.
Okay.
But they naturally reproduce. It's just not probably worth the money to stock them because they're going to produce on their own.
This whole thing about stocking comes up all the time. Stocking is a great tool, especially when we're putting in some of these fish species that one are struggling or two don't reoccur naturally, the hybrid species.
Right.
But, last year we were having this conversation about stocking stripers. And I know that stripers are fish that don't reproduce in the lake. But I was told that we get every single one of our stripers comes out of one female for the entire state of Kentucky. So you start thinking about what natural, good fish habitat, natural reoccurrence, how much of a better tool if you got good fish habitat is than actually stocking. So we keep talking about habitat. Habitat's how you get more fish, right?
Yeah, and the other thing I was going to add to it is that the gentleman that's over our fins program, they actually do go out and do electrofishing surveys at their fins lakes. So they're trying to get that information about the largemouth bass, the bluegill, to just ensure that through that natural reproduction that Jeff was talking about, that they are reproducing to sustain their population. So as long as they're doing it naturally, there's really no point for us to intervene. So, but we do check on it. So that's the reason we know that.
And I probably misspoke earlier when I was talking about we don't produce our hybrids. I actually think we do. It's the striped bass that I was thinking about. Those are the ones that we get from Tennessee because it's hard to handle,
the transportation
them both males and females. But I think the hybrids we actually at least at times do ourselves.
Yeah, we were with the biologists. They were walking us through it last year or the year before. They were talking about hybrids.
Yeah.
They were talking about taking the female eggs, and they were like, everything that we put in hybrid-wise comes from one fish. And I was like, are you serious? And I guess that just naturally, you're not going to get a high percentage of them survive, but I guess in a fish lab, you get a very high percentage of them turn into viable size fish. So very interesting. Next question here is, are the walleyes self-reproducing on No-Lin Lake?
I'd say for the most part, no. I don't know if there's a little bit way up in the river. But for the most part,
there could potentially be, but they're not at a level to maintain their population. So
if we didn't stock them, they'd probably decline fairly rapidly, I would guess. We just don't see the reproduction in those reservoirs.
When's a good time of year to start trying to target those walleye on our? Green River's got a good population of walleye. No-Lin's got walleye. What are some of the other lakes? Cumberland, obviously, walleye.
Laurel's got them. Car Creek.
I was going to say Russell, Car Creek.
Dale Hollow.
Yeah, Dale Hollow for sure.
So when's a good time of year to kind of start targeting them, and how would you fish for them?
I was talking to one of our biologists, Southwest, Eric Cummins, about green, and he mentioned, mid-March or so, around the dam and the island up off the dam and the flats there, and then using curly tails and jerk baits and small cranks. And then as you progress through the year, in the early summer, you're out on some of the flats and such. And then later in the summer, bouncing like the worm harnesses along the creek channels.
It's amazing. It's one of the species of fish that I get asked the most on where and how can I go catch a walleye.
I think timbered coves, if you can find stump beds on long points can be. I know at Laurel. It's fish and swim bait. I probably shouldn't say that because there's certain people that do really well doing that and don't want me to say it. But fish and swim baits on the long, shallow points and such.
Yeah. So that's a fun species of fish to target, and it doesn't get much better for table fare, does it?
So they're good to eat. That's why we want to catch them.
They're really, really good. But the walleyes are probably not reproducing at a noticeable level on No-Lin. Those are all put and take fish, right? We talk about native strain. So those fish that we're putting into the lakes, like Nolan, Barron, those fish are actually green. Those fish are what?
The Erie strain.
So they're Erie strain.
Yeah.
They're not normally
That's
here.
not the, yeah, years ago we found that Rockcastle, it started at Rockcastle and had a southern native population to Kentucky area. And we wanted to try to preserve that. And so we've had a program going for, it's been 10 plus years at least.
Restocking the native strain.
Yeah, and trying to put them in some areas that we thought they were, native in prior, and see if we can get them going again.
Our record walleye was most definitely probably a Rockcastle strain.
You can get some really big native strains for sure.
They get a lot bigger than the Erie strain that we're stocking, don't they?
Yeah.
So it'd be really nice if we can get those numbers up where people can have a really good opportunity to go out and catch, 6 and 8 pound plus walleye.
Yep.
Those are going to be most likely your native strain fish, right? Yeah. I think our state record's like 20 pounds or something, isn't it?
Yeah, and
it's a giant.
Where did it come from?
I don't know, but
it was Cumberland. It was Lake Cumberland. It seems like, or Cumberland River.
Cumberland River.
It's probably Cumberland River.
And it was a giant walleye. And it was years and years ago. Probably.
It probably was
native strain, most likely. Next question: is it safe to eat fish caught from the Ohio River?
So I always tell people, when they ask the consumption questions, is that refer to our guide. I mean, in a general sense, it's broken into two different user groups. The general population, there's a sensitive group, and it tells recommendations of how many meals a week, how many meals a month that you should eat, and then it also goes into specific water bodies if there's something that's more restrictive than the statewide.
Okay.
So I always refer people to go take a look at that, see where they're fishing, and see specifically what group they fall into, and follow that advisory that's in our guide.
If you're dealing with eating a couple of meals a month or even a year, would you eat fish out of the Ohio River?
I think it was just a couple. As long as you're following, what's recommended, I think.
I've eaten fish out of the Ohio River.
I ate a lot of fish.
Yeah.
And I follow in the general population. I can eat a meal a month.
Yeah. Oh
so,
yeah. Eating them out of there is probably not a big concern as long as you're going by the rules and regulations.
Right, and that's the thing, is just double check. But because again, everybody falls into different classifications, based on. So just double check.
Yeah. All right. Next question. This is a question for you. This person has a pedal kayak and they're going to upgrade to an electric assist unit this spring. They're an older kayak angler and they think it'll help them get around and access more water. Will they need to register the kayak once it gets an electric motor?
So it's going to go from pedal to electric.
Yes.
So now that you have that electric factor in, you will need to register that vessel. Anytime you have a motor or like a trolling motor, any assistance other than manpower would require registration.
So that person's going to need to take that kayak and get some form of registration on it, and then get it titled, and then put the numbers on it. And
they would need to go to their county clerk's office, and he's probably going to refer them to me, depending on what area you're in, to do it for a game board to come out and do a boat inspection. It just verifies, and that's going to be really quick on a kayak because there's not, whole identification numbers and stuff like that. So, and then submit it back to your county clerks, and that's how you get registered.
So once you go through that, at what point in time? I mean, a kayak, you need to have your life jackets and all of your gear, throwable devices, whatever. At what point in time does it become okay? You need a fire extinguisher and the whole 9 yards. Electric motor, does that mean you got to have that?
So anytime when it comes to fire extinguishers, anytime you have any sort of combustible liquids on board, so a gasoline engine, that's when that would come into factor.
Okay. Okay. There you go. Next question is, what is the best central Kentucky lake for big bluegill fishing?
This question gets us in the most trouble. Because the anglers that know what they are tell us to quit telling people.
Well, it's on the fishing forecast.
It's on the fishing forecast, so the information's out there, so I will answer the question.
Okay.
So for our area, if somebody was going to go out and try to target big bluegill, I would recommend try Elmer Davis, Corinth, and Bolts Lake.
Okay.
This year, McNeely Lake in Louisville's really good
Oh,
too.
really?
So those would probably be my top 4 picks for this area.
All right. Very good. You know, I always say the walleye is the
But I'm
question.
going to get in trouble this spring when people are out fishing.
Well, sorry, people. Everybody wants to know where they're at. The question I get the most is where do I catch walleye? And the second question, you know what that is?
What's that?
Red ear. Where do I catch red ear sunfish? That's the 2 fish that everybody wants to go out and target. And both of them can be a little tricky, but
So I will give you a hint. The list of lakes I just gave you for big bluegill also have big red ear in
all
it.
right. So big bluegill and red
But
ear
you do
go
have to
hand in
fish
hand.
for them different.
Okay.
So yeah, so they do occupy different habitats. Typically, I tell people when you're in your boat casting towards the bank, trying to catch bluegill, turn around and cast the other way and you'll catch red ear.
Okay.
Because they like to hang out kind of on those silted in areas in the middle of coves.
Okay. So out a little deeper.
And
off the bank.
Off the bank, get something down there on the bottom. Just keep it above the thermocline.
Above the thermocline. Hey, that's an important thing to know when you're fishing all these rivers. Once that
That
thermocline
ties
sets
into
up.
the walleye fishing. I mean, it ties into whatever you're fishing for.
Everything, yeah.
So if you fish below that, your day is probably not going to go real well.
All right, next question. We talked about habitat. Where's the best place to get up-to-date location information on habitat, fishable habitat, and where would you recommend that?
So I mean, the good thing is that as soon as we put stuff out, we're updating it on our website through the Lakes with Fish Attractors. That's also tied in through our Fish Boat Kentucky app. So as soon as we get them out, I mean, it's probably not the next day, but within a week or so, that information's live and out there. As soon as we update it, it's there. So we try to get that information out there because we know people really, really want it because we know they're doing really good around those sites. It was kind of neat. We got a project going on at Bolts right now, and the anglers saw the material sitting out there ready to be put out, and they were driving by with the windows down, fist bumping us coming down through the parking lot. So
how do you guys choose your locations? Do you get angler input on some of your locations on where to put out the habitat?
So yeah, I definitely have anglers that definitely give us some advice on areas that they think would be very productive. So the other things that we have to look for is that we're putting them in a place that they're not going to just sink into the silt.
Yeah.
That way, if we're going to put the effort into it, we want to make sure we get the biggest bang for that.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's a combination. For our district right now, we just kind of rotate our lakes, and we're kind of at a point now that we're actually just refurbishing sites, not adding a lot of new stuff, just because we've been at this for so many years now.
Okay.
So anglers like it because the number one question I get is, do I have to update my waypoints again? And I'm like, no, we're actually just adding on to the piles you already got marked.
Just which ones you go to first change? Because this one's brand new, fresh habitat. You're going to hit it first.
And the nice thing is we do add what year it was, refurbished or put out. Because that is a question we get. Is they're like, people are like, I want to fish something that's 2 or 3 years old versus something that's maybe 10 years old, just because there's more material still there.
I'll tell you what, if you're going to a new body of water and you want to have some places to fish, go on the website or go get the app and download that and at least have those in your back pocket. Because if the day's not going as well as you'd like, that's a really good at least plan to have as a back second opportunity plan to go hit some of those spots that the fish are potentially going to be there because the habitat has been there for a couple of years.
I've salvaged a lot of fishing trips off of habitat sites.
Oh yeah. All right, what is the best way to actually catch a walleye? We talked a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it probably depends on if you're in the river, below the lock and dams or in a reservoir. But yeah, we talked about, different baits, and you may need to progress. The walleye are very finicky as far as temperature goes. So a lot of times you need to get where the water's cooler, which they prefer, but not below the thermocline where there's no oxygen. So I know, like in Cumberland during the summer, it may be 25, they may hold to a very narrow band, and you need to just kind of fish at that depth, whether you're, if you're bottom bouncing a worm harness, just, a lot of the depth finders and trolling motors now can keep you trolling right along that depth. And
walleye are very temperature sensitive. They're also pretty light sensitive. For most fish, probably one of the most light sensitive fish that I fish for, and I mean all the walleye, sauger, It seems like those days that you're out there fishing where you can't hardly see the sun and it's overcast tend to be more productive and you catch more fish. Walleye, when they come up shallower, I tend to do better at night. I mean, they just tend to be more light sensitive in my experience of catching them.
And that's one of the things with the saga I always tell people is, you know, you're targeting those mud flats because, you know, they're out chasing schools of shad around.
Yeah.
And typically, if you can find the white bass, you're in the right area.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Just fish under the white bass because typically the saga are hanging out with them. And I've heard people say that about, you know, doing the worm harnesses, bottom bouncers is, you know, if you're starting to pick up some bigger than average bluegill, you're probably in that band. You're in that right area. Just stick with that.
Well, I tell you, now walleye might be a little different, but the sauger and the sawguy, for most of the year, if you're not fishing within a foot of the bottom, you're probably, they tend to be close to the bottom, don't they?
Right, yeah, I tell people all the time, the main thing with the sawguy is you got to keep bottom contact.
Yeah.
If you're not bouncing off the bottom periodically, you're probably not where you need to be.
Yeah, be on the bottom. There you go. All right, well, we're winding this down. What's everyone on the panel most looking forward to fishing for over the next few months? What's your favorite species, you know, in this next March, April, May time frame? You grab that rod and reel and head out. What are you doing?
I prefer bass, but I mean, I'd love to. Right now, I have a bass buggy, so I fish in smaller water bodies. But I'm planning on getting a bigger boat, and I'll immediately be crappie fishing for sure.
Okay, you're making plans for this year and years down the road.
Yes.
What are you looking forward to fishing for first?
I typically March is looking for that biggest bass of the year for me.
Okay, yeah.
You know, they're at their heaviest weight for the year, so March I put a lot of emphasis on trying to catch that big bass.
There you go. That's a good time of year.
Yeah.
And really kind of starting any warm days in the farm ponds now.
I'm already getting bass reports on people calling in. So, I mean, the bass on these warm days, these little warm stretches, they're already biting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I heard from Adam Martin out west, and he said the bass fishing is excellent out in the big lakes now.
Right now.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Some of the best fishing can be done this time of year when they're kind of starting to stage, getting on the points to the bays that they're going to spawn in. A lot of times they kind of pile in those.
Seems like it stayed warmer out there than it's been around here.
Yeah,
I went out there for a planning meeting and it was 60 degrees, and I think it was still 30 here. So.
Yeah, oh yeah. What about you? You looking forward to a trip out on the water?
Oh yeah. Well, I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, so bluegill.
Okay.
Bluegill. My son likes to catch bass. He hasn't caught very many, but he likes to catch it. So I'd say those two.
The bluegill fishing trip. That's a great way to take a kid out and get them interested in fishing. So you got your hands full. That's a lot of fun. Seeing their excitement and catching fish is.
I don't take a pole because the whole time I'm baiting, getting hooks out of limbs.
Oh yeah,
it's fun.
That's what taking a kid fishing is all about. That's for sure. Well, hey, hopefully we've answered all your questions. If you have a question, you can always go to our fishing guide and get that answered. There's a million ways to reference that. We've talked a little bit about the actual fishing guide, the online version of the fishing guide, and then there's links in some of these apps that we've talked about today to get you to that fishing guide. If you still can't get the answer to your question, you can always try our info center, 1-800-858-1549. So make sure you reach out and get that question answered through there. So, well, I tell you what, today has it's been educational. It's been a lot of fun. Got to play a little trivia. By the way, you won the trivia challenge by one. Right. So nice job.
Where's the gift card to it?
Well, a couple of other items here just to remind you. For the next 2 weeks, Kentucky Afield will be preempted, so we'll be off air for the annual fundraising drive at KET. So make sure you join us on March 21st for an all-new show. Secondly, our hunting and fishing license expire on February 28th, so make sure that you check that and get that taken care of before you head out after the February the 28th. Another thing, here we're at the Salado Wildlife Education Center. If you want to bring a kid out and check out the Salado Center or come enjoy all the animals and wildlife we have here, you can start doing that on March the 10th. The Salado Center will be opening up on March the 10th. Conservation camps are now open for registration. So if you have a 4th through 6th grader that wants to attend one of our conservation camps this year, we have 3 across the state. Now's the time to start signing up. And then if you're planning on turkey hunting, there are some hunter's education courses that are being offered right now. So if you need to get that hunter's education card, now's the time to get signed up to do that. So, hey, thank you guys for coming out. 2 of you, this was your first live call-in show. You did great.
Sir.
It flies by, doesn't it?
It does.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to getting out on the water. Hopefully you're making plans to do the same. And remember, hunting and fishing on private property is a privilege. Always ask permission and thank the landowner. Until next time, I'm your host, Chad Miles. Can't wait to see you in the woods or on the water.